At Thanksgiving 2023 in Santa Fe, my younger sister discovered I had $12 million invested. By dessert, my parents were already insisting I share it with her because she needed it more. I'm writing this on a throwaway account for obvious reasons, but my name is Elena Torres, 42, and this is the story I've carried for decades. I grew up in northern New Mexico, where the mountains turned purple at sunset and neighbors knew your grandparents before they knew you. Until I was 10, I was an only child. My parents weren't affectionate, but they were consistent. Dad was always under the hood of a car. Mom was always in the garden. Life was predictable until the night it wasn't. January 1991. My Aunt Sophia shook me awake and told me to pack a bag. Mom was in the hospital, giving birth 2 months early. Isabella had arrived. She was so small I thought she might disappear. Tubes, wires, incubators, no one let me near her. When she finally came home, the house transformed overnight. Mom turned into a germ warden, bleach every morning, sanitizer in every room, quarantine for me whenever I so much as sneezed. At first, being sent away to Grandma Rosa's house felt like an adventure. Her fresh tortillas, her laughter, her jewelry boxes I loved to sort through. But I knew the truth. I wasn't being cared for. I was being kept out of the way. Isabella was the miracle. I was the afterthought. I tried to win them back. Straight A's? Barely noticed. First prize at the regional science fair? My project was shoved in the garage because Isabella might be allergic to cardboard dust. Still not sure that's a real thing. The breaking point came when I was 12. I had spent months practicing bridge over troubled water on the piano for the school talent show. That night, Isabella had a 99.1 fever. No one came. 2 weeks later, every relative, including both sets of grandparents, showed up for Isabella's 15-minute flute recital, where she fumbled through hot cross buns. By 7, Isabella had outgrown her health issues, but she had already mastered the art of playing fragile. A headache got her out of school. Feeling tired meant I did her chores. Nervous about a test? Mom called the teacher. I withdrew. My bedroom became my sanctuary, filled with art history books and antiques. Ironically, it stayed mine because Isabella claimed to be allergic to my lavender air freshener. The favoritism would have been bad enough, but what broke me was the narrative they built around it. Elena's so independent. Isabella just needs more attention. I wasn't independent. I was invisible. High school became my lifeline. While Isabella built her theater queen persona, I was plotting my escape. I joined everything I could: debate, National Honor Society, the school paper, while working shifts at Maria's cafe, where Maria remembered my birthday when my parents didn't. Debate became my favorite weapon. There's no rush like dismantling someone's argument without breaking a sweat. I didn't know it yet, but those skills would one day help me negotiate million-dollar contracts. I won state twice. My parents didn't see either victory. They were at Isabella's C-team soccer games, where she barely touched the ball. Junior year, I scored a perfect 1600 on the SAT, less than 1% of students ever do. I stared at the screen, convinced it was a mistake. I raced home, heart pounding. Mom, look, a perfect SAT score. That's nice, honey, she said, barely glancing up. But keep your voice down. Isabella has a big test tomorrow. Isabella smirked. Yeah, some of us actually have to study. Miss Perfect. That was the night I understood. My success could never be for them. It had to be for me. College applications? I handled every essay, every recommendation, every form by myself. My parents were too busy. Mr. Chen, my guidance counselor, stayed late to help me finish the FAFSA. He cared more about my future than my own family did. Acceptance letters rolled in: Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Michigan. I kept them hidden under my bed. If Isabella knew, the house would have erupted in drama about how she'd be left behind. When Michigan offered me a full ride, tuition, housing, even a book allowance, I cried in the library. Relief, not sadness. I told my parents at dinner, I'm going to Michigan. Mom frowned. That's far. What if Isabella needs you? Dad added, don't expect help. We've got cheer expenses. Isabella just grinned. Can I have your room? That summer, I worked double shifts at Maria's cafe. Maria slipped me extra tips and leftover pie. Mija, she'd say. The loudest ones usually have the least to say. On move-in day, my parents didn't come, they were at Isabella's cheer competition. Aunt Sophia drove me instead. Before leaving, she pressed an envelope into my hand. Your grandma Rosa wanted you to have this. Inside, $500 and all the love I hadn't gotten at home. She's proud of you, Aunt Sophia said, and for once, I believed it. I later learned Grandma had scraped together that $500 from her Social Security checks, saving quietly for months. It wasn't the amount, it was the intention. Someone, at last, had chosen me. That first night in my Michigan dorm, lying on a twin mattress that still smelled like factory plastic, I made a promise. I would build a life so full, so undeniable, that being overlooked would never again be possible. Not to spite my family, but for the 8-year-old girl who'd once been banished for sneezing. College was a blur of ramen-fueled all-nighters, part-time jobs, and the intoxicating taste of independence. I graduated summa cum laude. My parents barely noticed. They were busy helping Isabella transfer to her third college in 2 years. My first job was at a prestigious Detroit auction house. I started small, estate sales, cataloging the forgotten possessions of the wealthy dead. Not glamorous, but steady. Then came the Kingston estate, rooms of costume jewelry, destined for low-value lots. My hours with Grandma Rosa's collection paid off. One brooch stood out. Heavy, precise clasp, a hidden hallmark. My gut screamed it was real. I spent nights combing through databases, cross-referencing catalogs, and even blowing part of my meager savings on an online gemology course. 2 weeks later, I marched into my boss's office with a presentation that looked like a courtroom exhibit. Mr. Harrison, I believe this piece is Cartier, circa 1925. He barely glanced up from his phone. Elena, we already listed it as costume. I slid the photos across his desk. These hallmarks are identical to Cartier's Paris signatures from that year. He paused, looked again, and for the first time, actually saw me. The brooch sold for $47,000. Suddenly, the new girl had a reputation. From then on, I treated every piece like it might hold a secret. My apartment walls were plastered with Hallmark charts and auction records. Weekends vanished into estate sales. Commission checks grew. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just scraping by, I was building. My family? Still uninterested. At Sunday dinner, Mom asked, Elena's still at that antique shop, right? Auction house, I corrected. I just authenticated a rare Tiffany piece. Isabella cut in, speaking of jewelry. Look at this charm bracelet I got at the mall. I let it go. For once, I had something that was mine, immune to their dismissal. Then came the Rothschild collection, a massive estate buzzing in industry circles. I spotted another ordinary piece others overlooked. After days of research, I proved it was a long-lost treasure from a famed French jeweler, missing since World War II. It sold for $238,000. Harrison called me into his office. I braced for a promotion. Instead, he said, Elena, you shouldn't be working for someone else. You should be running your own firm. I laughed. Me? Start a business? With what money? But the seed was planted. Soon I was moonlighting, authentication jobs after hours. Word spreading fast. Collectors trusted my eye. And one night, surrounded by jewelry manuals and magnifying loupes, I realized this wasn't a side hustle. It was a future. So I bet on myself. I emptied my savings, took a loan against my car, and rented a shabby office above a Chinese restaurant. The Wi-Fi worked only by the window, and everything smelled like Kung Pao chicken, but it was mine. Those first months were brutal. Folding table desk, curb-rescued chair, sleepless nights running numbers, but I was relentless. My break came 6 months later. A dealer handed me a box of Victorian brooches. Everyone thought they were replicas. I found 2 authentic pieces. When they sold, my cut was $86,000, more than I'd made in 2 years. Overnight, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. By year 2, I hired Jenny, a sharp gemology grad overlooked because she was quiet. I saw myself in her. Today, she runs my authentication division. We grew fast. Detroit, then Chicago, then New York. Clients with names you'd recognize, trusting me with artifacts worth more than mansions. At Sunday dinner, Isabella smirked, Elena, I have some old jewelry I was gonna donate to Goodwill. Maybe your little shop wants it? That morning, I had authenticated a $1, 2 million Faberge egg. Sure, I said, I'll take a look. They still introduce me as the other daughter who works with old jewelry. Meanwhile, Forbes quoted me under my company's name. We had 3 offices, a staff of 20, and a client list that could rival Sotheby's. I kept my lifestyle understated. Target dress, actually Chanel. Vintage Harry Winston earrings, to them, cute costume jewelry. They never noticed. By year 5, we were an international firm. I was flying more than I was sleeping, trusted to work in absolute discretion. And the best part? My family still had no idea. I bought a house in one of Santa Fe's better neighborhoods, comfortable, elegant, but not ostentatious. My car was sleek but unremarkable, the kind of vehicle that blended into a valet line without raising eyebrows. My only real indulgence was my home office, state-of-the-art authentication tools, biometric locks, and a custom-built vault that could have made Fort Knox jealous. The irony? My family thought I was scraping by. Mom loved to sigh. It's so sweet of Elena to help us out. She must be living on ramen to afford it. Meanwhile, I'd just deposited a commission larger than their mortgage from authenticating a private collection. Success is strange. The more you achieve, the less you can explain it to people who've only ever seen you as less. It's like describing color to someone who's only ever known black and white. By then, my company dominated the Midwest's high-end jewelry authentication market. But every Sunday, I stepped back into character, Elena, the modest antique shop worker. Mornings were spent on calls with collectors in Dubai, afternoons on million-dollar authentications, evenings at my parents' table, in plain clothes, eating overcooked pot roast while Isabella bragged about her latest career milestone, usually fetching her boss's coffee. One Sunday stands out. That morning, I'd closed a 7-figure authentication on a Cartier piece hidden in a safe deposit box for 40 years. I went straight from the client's bank to my parents' dining room, still buzzing. Elena, honey, are you okay? Your clothes are looking worn, Mom said, eyeing my deliberately plain $3,000 cashmere sweater. If you had a real job instead of playing with old jewelry, Isabella began. Dad cut her off. Be nice. Not everyone can be as successful as you. I nearly choked on the pot roast. That was around the time I began sending anonymous payments to cover my parents' mortgage and Isabella's debts. Despite everything, they were still my family. I arranged a $5,000 monthly transfer, telling them I scraped together $1,000 and lived on rice and beans to manage it. They assumed the rest came from Aunt Sophia. Isabella, of course, took credit, telling anyone who'd listen that her inspiration had rallied the family to help. I bit my tongue while she paraded handbags I knew were boutique fresh Gucci's, not outlet finds. I can spot the difference blindfolded. The support shifted the family dynamic in strange ways. My parents began treating me like some noble pauper, patting my hand and praising my sacrifice, while Isabella jetted to Cabo, posting #blessed selfies. Then came the MBA fiasco. Isabella announced she wanted another degree, this time from a private business school. Mom called me in tears. We just can't afford it. I suggested state schools. Oh, honey, you don't understand, she said. Your sister has to maintain certain standards. Could you increase your help for a few years? I raised it to $7,000 a month. It barely dented my accounts. But listening to them praise Isabella's ambition while imagining me scraping pennies for instant noodles burned more than I expected. The kicker? I was already scheduled to guest lecture at that very business school, invited by the dean to speak on luxury authentication and business growth. My family had no idea. By day, I ran a multi-million-dollar firm trusted by the wealthiest collectors in the world. By Sunday night, I was just Elena, the overlooked daughter who worked in an antique shop. The lie was becoming unbearable. And that Thanksgiving, it finally shattered. And like and subscribe for more videos.